What happened inside that studio on a quiet weekday afternoon is something daytime television rarely experiences. An eruption so sudden, so raw, and so completely unexpected that even the most seasoned producers froze in their seats. It was supposed to be a feel-good segment. A quick chat, a couple of stories, a performance, the kind of warm, easy moment viewers tune in to the Kelly Clarkson show for. But instead, it turned into one of the most uncomfortable, jaw-dropping confrontations in modern talk show history. And the wildest part? Nobody, not the crew, not the audience, not even Kelly Clarkson herself, saw it coming. It all began with the kind of energy you expect when two major names in music sit down together. Keith Urban walked out to a burst of applause, dressed like he always is, effortless, cool, polished, but casual. Kelly greeted him with her signature mix of excitement and warmth. The atmosphere felt bright, friendly, familiar. Two artists with long careers, multiple awards, and more than enough mutual respect to keep things running smoothly. Or so everyone thought. Keith sat down, crossed his legs, and leaned back with the relaxed confidence of a man who has done this 1,000 times. Kelly cracked a light joke about his schedule, the crowd laughed, and for the first 40 seconds, you could tell the producers were satisfied. Everything looked easy. But if you go back and watch the footage before it was pulled from the internet, you can see the shift. It's subtle at first, a slight tightening of the jaw, a longer blink, a change in posture, the kind of tiny cues the human brain picks up on even before we realize something's wrong. Kelly tossed out what seemed like a standard question, one of those softballs that typically lead to a reflective answer and a smooth segue. But this time, those harmless words became the spark that ignited everything. She asked about authenticity in country music. A simple topic, right? Something artists talk about all the time. But the second she tied the conversation to recent industry criticism that mentioned Keith by name, the temperature in the room dropped. The smile on Keith's face didn't disappear, but it tightened, and the energy shifted in a way every single person in that studio felt instantly. He answered slowly, cautiously, choosing his words like each one might explode. And when he said, "That's quite a loaded question," half the audience chuckled nervously, thinking he was joking. But Kelly didn't pick up on the warning. She kept going, explaining the context, referencing the article, and pushing the conversation forward like any professional host would. But to Keith, it didn't feel professional. It felt personal. The camera caught his fingers tapping against the armrest, a small but telling habit. It was the gesture of someone trying to stay calm, even when they felt cornered. When he finally responded, the tone had shifted. The casual interview was officially gone. "You brought this up without asking me first," he said, voice clipped, eyes sharp. "It doesn't feel like a question. It feels like a setup." The audience froze. Kelly blinked. Producers leaned forward in their seats. From that moment on, the entire conversation transformed into a tug-of-war between two people who weren't just disagreeing. They were reacting from places they didn't usually let the world see. Kelly, trying to keep the segment moving, insisted she meant no harm. Keith insisted she'd blindsided him. And the more she tried to clarify, the more he seemed to feel like he was defending his entire career on national television. His voice grew tight, her voice grew quiet, and the air became impossibly heavy. The audience didn't move. No one dared shift, cough, or even breathe too loudly. Everyone sensed they were witnessing something real unfolding. Not scripted tension, not TV drama, but genuine frustration that had been simmering under the surface long before either of them sat down in that chair. Kelly tried to soften her tone. She complimented his music. She reminded him she admired his work. But Keith wasn't hearing any of it. He was stuck on the idea that she'd put him on the spot, forced him into a defensive position, and used her platform to amplify criticism he didn't think was fair to begin with. And when he snapped back with, "So now I'm the problem because I don't like being blindsided on your show," the room swallowed every sound. You could feel the discomfort pressing in from all sides. Kelly leaned forward and tried once more to bring the conversation back to neutral ground. But by then, Keith was past the point of diplomacy. He wasn't just annoyed, he felt disrespected, accused, misrepresented. And the more he talked, the more the tension escalated into something bigger than a disagreement. He accused her of ambushing him. She insisted she was doing her job. He accused her of twisting his success into a negative. She tried telling him he was misinterpreting her. Every sentence landed like a slap against the silence. And then, Kelly set the line that cracked everything open. None of the other artists reacted like this. Maybe the problem isn't the question. A gasping sound rolled through the studio like a wave. Even Keith stood stunned for half a second before the anger hardened in his eyes. That one sentence, calm, controlled, and delivered with perfect clarity, hit him harder than anything else she'd said. And what he said next pushed the whole moment past the point of no return. "So now I'm the problem because I don't like being blindsided on your show?" Kelly shook her head, trying to gather the conversation before it spiraled completely out of control. But Keith was too far gone. His frustration wasn't just about the question anymore. It was about being portrayed as the one overreacting. That's when he stood up. The sound of the chair scraping across the floor sliced through the room like a blade. Every head in the studio jerked up. A producer behind the camera jumped. Kelly visibly stiffened. Keith towered over the set, furious, humiliated, and done. "I've been in this business longer than you've been singing," he snapped, voice echoing off the walls. "I don't need to defend myself to anyone, especially someone outside my genre." Kelly rose too, but not in fear, in control, in authority. And when she responded, her tone was low, sharp, and absolutely uncompromising. "And right now, you're acting like someone who can't handle a simple question." If the studio had been silent before, now it was dead. Keith glared. Kelly glared back. Two titans, two careers, two egos colliding in real time. And for the briefest moment, it felt like nobody in that room remembered this was a daytime talk show. Keith accused her of using him for ratings. She accused him of twisting her intentions. He questioned her respect. She questioned his professionalism. By the time Keith stepped toward the edge of the set, the interview was beyond saving. It wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a fracture. One that until that moment, nobody thought was even possible. Kelly finally ended it with a steady, practiced line. "This interview is over." But Keith didn't let her have the last word. "It's over because I won't sit here and be insulted on live TV." He turned, walked off the set, and didn't look back. The thud of each step followed him like a heartbeat. Kelly stood frozen, steadying herself as the red light on the camera blinked. Then, with a voice that betrayed just a hint of shock, she said, "We'll be right back after this short break." The moment the cameras cut away, the studio transformed into a completely different world. One where panic replaced applause, shock replaced smiles, and the easy rhythm of daytime television shattered into pure chaos. For years, the Kelly Clarkson Show had been known as a warm, welcoming space where artists felt comfortable letting their guard down. But after Keith Urban stormed off that stage, The energy in the room felt like a building hit by an unexpected storm. The audience sat frozen in their seats, staring at the empty space where Keith had stood just seconds earlier. Some covered their mouths, others exchanged wide-eyed glances. A few whispered, "Oh my God," under their breath, as if raising their voice might somehow make the moment more real. Kelly didn't move at first. She stood at the edge of the stage, her hands lightly gripping the microphone card she no longer needed. Her eyes followed Keith's exit, but her face stayed composed, professional, poised, almost eerily calm for someone who had just been blindsided on her own show. She took a slow breath, closed her eyes for half a second, and then let out a subtle exhale that said everything she couldn't say out loud. Within seconds, producers rushed